Hello again and welcome back to the OK Air. I am Eric Lee James.
And I am Piyush Dikshit. We are so glad you're joining us today as we continue our journey into the fascinating world of origins, uncovering the genesis of ideas, frameworks, and personal journeys that shape who we are and how we interact.
That's right. Our philosophy here is simple. By understanding where things truly begin, we gain a profound clarity that helps us step more firmly into that I am okay space, ready to engage with the world.
And today, we have an incredible conversation lined up. We're about to dive deep into an origin story that has significantly impacted the landscape of transactional analysis, especially right here in India, and how that journey shaped a truly remarkable individual.
It's a discussion that promises to shed light on not just theoretical beginnings, but also the very personal drivers behind a lifetime of dedication to growth and human potential. We will explore the initial sparks, the pivotal moments, and the enduring passion that fuel their path.
So, without further ado, let's welcome our esteemed guest for today's episode. Our guest today is a man with a powerful two-part mission to rehumanize work and to revitalize life. He's Dr. C. Suriyaprakash, or Surya as he's known to all of us, a distinguished integrative life coach and a global expert in the psychology of relationships, known as transactional analysis. For decades, he's worked with leaders and teams to build a deeper connection to their purpose, their life, and their work. He doesn't just theorize about change, he provides the tools to help you build a better life, both in and out of the office. We are absolutely thrilled to have him on the show.
Welcome to the show, Surya.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Piyush. I'm really excited to be here today.
Lovely. We would love to ask you a few questions. And these
Sure,
questions are more personal, Surya, and it could also remind you of things that you have done in the past.
sure, absolutely. I'm really
Yeah.
looking forward. Yeah,
So, to kick us off, let's go right to the origin story of transaction analysis in India. From your unique vantage point, how did this powerful framework first find its roots here? And what was the initial landscape it encountered?
well, that's really rewinding almost half a century now because I started my TA journey 30 years back. But I think
Oh,
the
wow.
seeds of, yeah, transaction analysis in India was laid at least 2 decades before that, in
Hmm.
late 60s, early 70s, actually, 1970s. I am really privileged to have some sort of a, not first hand, but a second hand, but very not too far vantage view of that history. Because in my initial days, whom we call as father of TA in India, Father George Kandathil, was my trainer and supervisor as well. So I had real, very, very interesting, fascinating stories about the way he really brought TA to India. Father George, as we all used to call him, was a Jesuit priest. So, part of his own learning, I think in the late 60s, he went to the US. And then he came across transaction analysis. He met several people. He was doing his theological studies. As part of that, he came to know about transaction analysis. And he learned from some of Eric Byrne, the founder of TA, his own contemporaries like Muriel James, Mary Golding, Bob Goldings, Jackie Schiff, and so on. And During his stay there, he got certified by them as a teaching member. And then when he came back to India, he started setting his base in Cochin.
So that's where he came from, Surya. So I'm also curious what is happening to you in the time that you got into this field. And did you meet Father George? How did you get into TA?
Well, no, I met Father George much later, after
Okay.
he came here and settled and centered and so on and so forth. My first introduction to TA was the book I'm Okay, You're Okay. Many of us may be familiar with it. I read it during my college days. And every page, I should tell you, it's no exaggeration, every page I read it, the thought that came to me is, oh my goodness, that is me. Goodness, that has happened in my life. So that is exactly the question I'm sitting with. So I used to always ask, how did this guy know about this? No, it was really fascinating because I grew up as a mathematical and engineering background. So he's looking somebody who is able to decipher human mind and the way human relationships work in such clarity, such precision was almost uncanny to me. So that was it. I didn't know what to do with
Oh,
it. It was a lot of insights, and I had forgotten almost. And almost about 6 years after I finished my graduation, suddenly one fine morning, a friend of mine said, there's a TA conference happening in Chennai. Would you like to come? I said, TA. It immediately struck a chord. I said, I didn't even think twice. I said, yes, definitely I would like to go. So that was my real interaction with TA, the TA community. The strength of transactional analysis, at least in India, even globally, is the community of people who really practice. So I went to the conference. There I met a lot of people. And that is where I saw Father George. I did not meet sense because at that time it was an Indian conference, but a lot of international transactional experts were there. And Father George, of course, was one of the major organizers. So I saw him, didn't meet him, but I met several others. Father George is one of the first trainees, PK Saru, which all of you are familiar with. I met her, but I didn't know much about her. Even though we lived in the same city, I got to know about it much later.
Mm.
So that is how I got introduced. When that 5 days of conference was something mind-boggling again. I don't remember anything, but the whole experience was so revealing and so insightful. At the end of one of the workshops, I remember I went up to the speaker and asked her, Julie Hay, she's a renowned transactionalist from the UK. I asked her if I want to study more about it, how do I come to know it? So she then introduced me to Saru, who happened to be living in the same city as mine in Coimbatore. It's a series of accidents that really got me into the TA community. Even before that, my friend's uncle hosting the conference and she inviting me to the conference, me meeting Julie. And Julie happened to be a friend of Saru and living at her house in Coimbatore. Who would believe somebody from UK coming and staying with a friend in Coimbatore, where I also live? Saru was starting her first training group the next month after the conference.
Wow, it was very timely then, right, Surya?
Surya. Sounds like a series of accidents. I just wanted to ask you a few questions just in the beginning, just the very beginning. You said you came from a mathematical engineering. Someone studying in college, it's highly unnatural for them to pick up "I'm okay, you're okay" and read it completely and describe it, etc. So now when you think back, any reason why that even before you like you used to read a lot of books, were you very curious about life? What was something about that?
It is both. I used to read. In fact, no, I used to be a very shy and timid small town boy. Nowadays, when I say that, people laugh at it. They would say, they don't believe me. So books were my refuge in many times. I was not an extrovert. I was academically inclined. So I would read anything that I could put my hand on to. And of course, the earlier days, it used to me a lot of fiction, all these English novels and all that stuff. The name itself seemed very interesting. And I would say that is one of the first non-fiction I read. I could say. I had no clue what this book was. The title was so interesting, so I just picked it up. But parallelly, it was also that I always, even right from early childhood, it's about life, about more than life in general, it's about what are we doing? Why are we doing? Why is this one upset? Why am I feeling like that? These questions were always there. but nobody, at least in my home, used to talk about it or explain things. So there's always questions. That's why when I read this book for the first time, there seemed to be some semblance of answers to many of those questions.
And do you remember any one insight that you discovered about yourself? This is me.
Yeah, I still remember. I think one of the things that he explains in that book is about, and one of the characteristics he talks about is the nice guy. The big capital letters on the left side, top corner of the book, there was this word nice guy. And the next around three-fourth of a page description almost exactly said what I was. Of course, later on when I studied TA, I heard it was the driver of please others and why it becomes and so on. And in a way, it's explained exactly why certain things work so well in my life and why certain things were always a problem for me. Okay, so that thing, it's told me, oh yeah, I am this nice guy. And and I also remember after reading the book, I said, I told myself, okay, next 1 month I'm going to be the bad guy.
So that experiment came out of nothing. You just saw that and said, this isn't right. Something is not okay.
Yeah, this thing is not working for me anymore. So I said, I'm going to be the bad guy. And what is it? I'm going to say no to everything for the next 1 month. So I don't know where I got that. I think it was like somewhere he talked about how do we change when you want to not be a nice guy, because you could be good for everybody else, but eventually internally you will be struggling and you feel suffocated, you feel not seen or not accounted for. So I said, I'm not going to take this anymore. I still remember very vividly. And that is why this whole thing of transaction analysis was always at the back of my mind. What is this? But I didn't know how to pursue further. So it is even such one simple thing had a real lasting impact, actually.
So what's fascinating, the spark happened then, and for 6 years the flame was burning, but nothing happened outside you. Was there anything else?
No, nothing visibly changed. I wouldn't say anything with nothing visibly changed. It only brought to my awareness a lot of things as to why things are not working. Many things why I'm doing things, but not really deep down feeling happy or powerful. That was a lingering feeling. As they say, ignorance was bliss. I didn't know what was happening, but now I'm aware what is going on. It's a conscious incompetence. That was a very frustrating period, actually. That's why when my friend said, here's this conference on TA, I immediately jumped in and said, probably it's a 5 day. There must be some direction, taking it forward.
You use the word conscious incompetence, and many of our listeners may not be aware of what that means. If you can correlate that with the Mr. Nice Guy image that you had and the struggles that you had, it will be very useful.
I don't know who the author or the origin of it, but it's a 4 stage learning process. I never knew I had tendency to be nice. But I knew that I'm a good boy. Everybody says you're a good boy, model boy in the family. But I never knew that is a behavioral pattern. I always believed it is me, it is my nature. So that unconscious incompetence. I was being something which I don't even know about it. It's incompetence because being a good guy is fine, but there is also a flip side to it. For example, when you are this nice guy, which even Thomas Harris talks about in that book, you tend to be nice to everyone. You tend to even read their mind. You get to go out of the way to help them without them even asking or even needing. Even that is not acknowledged, or when others are not reciprocating, then internally you feel cheated or you feel deprived. You feel that resentment that always used to grow. And I always felt guilty about it. Why am I feeling resentful about people? Because it's bad. So that is the tendency of a nice guy. Cannot do anything that would displease others. All right, so that is the incompetence. I thought that is my nature. But when I read the book, I became aware, oh my goodness, this is what has happened. And I also know how it has its origin in childhood. And therefore, I became aware of my incompetence. Like saying, look, I'm going out of the way and doing things which people did not ask. I'm doing it for my own sake so that I could feel good boy, not because, and therefore, when they don't reciprocate, I don't have the right to feel resentment or to feel deprived, but I don't know what to do about it. So that is the most frustrating space where I know what is not working, but I don't know what to do about it. That is the conscious incompetence. I'm still incompetent, but I'm now know about it. I'm
So that is worse in a way, right? That is
yeah,
worse.
that's why they say, ignorance is bliss. At least as long as I didn't know about it, I was blissfully in the space saying, okay, I'm the good guy. But of course, real change happens.
While you're being nice to others, and this is something from my own experience, when I'm being nice to others, you're not being nice to yourself. At least there were moments in my life where I ended up taking care of everybody around me, but didn't take care of myself. And then I used to feel bad saying that I will take care and save everybody else except for me.
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly,
So
exactly.
the sacrifice, and you can't stay with
Yeah.
it. After a while, you'll see
Yes.
what's wrong.
And in fact, you even feel guilty for wanting to have some needs of or wants of your own.
Mm.
Interesting journey, Surya. Really, really. There was a book, there was the conference. You often speak about physis,
Hmm.
which pushes you to move forward. See, can you throw some light on what is this fascination for this word physis for you? And how did TA connect with your deeper sense of ISIS during those early years?
Okay, I'm glad you asked about physis. But before going to that, I want to clarify one thing, especially many people mistake physis for physics. They add a C. It is not. It is physis, Physis, with no C there. Uh, Eric Berne says it is the force that is there inside all of us, which pushes us towards growth, to move ahead. Not only ahead, but also above. It's something that it's really, really like enhancing that life force. My favorite analogy is the force that makes a seed grow, even if you bury the seed deep down in the soil. Something about it makes it come and find its way to sunlight. So, therefore, we all humans have that sort of a drive, which makes, in spite of all limitations and other restrictions around us, even the not so ideal environment, we all still grow. And many of us thrive as well.
So that is what took you to the Chennai conference in.
I think that is what was in action when I was even reading the book. I'm
Mm.
okay, you're okay. Those sparks, that question, and saying, "Oh, I want no, I want." I think that is an expression of physis. Okay, and of course that is what drove me to say yes to go to the conference. Because as I said, I used to be a shy and timid guy, and I was attending this workshop for 2 days by a British lady who was very, very elderly at that time, and whose half the accent I didn't even understand. But still, end of those 2 days, I somehow garnered that courage to go ahead and ask her, what do I do if I want to study further? Which is very, very uncharacteristic. I think that which pushed me to do that is physis.
Right.
So it is in play in all of us. The idea is how much do we allow it to flow, or how much do we allow it to manifest, or how much do we repress and suppress it?
So what did she tell you? This was in Chennai. You were talking to her.
Yeah, she just said, okay. She asked me, where are you from? I thought she will not know the place where I was from. Chennai, the most any foreigner would know. I said, I'm coming from a place called Coimbatore. She said, oh, Coimbatore. Okay, I have a friend there. So give me your name and address. In those days, no phone, nothing. I just tore a sheet of the conference writing pad, wrote my name and address in that, and handed it to her. Anyway, forget it. But after a month, I get a postcard saying, I'm starting a TA group. I heard you are interested. If you are still keen to know, please come to this place at this time. And it was signed, very clearly signed PK Saru. The name was very unique. I did not even know whether it is a man or a woman. I still said, okay, let me go. So I went there. I think that is also Physis in action. I still
Mm.
garnered the courage to go all by myself, which is very, very unusual. It's a totally new place, new people. I don't even know who these people are. But still, I garnered the courage to go there. I
And this was
walked.
solo journey, Surya. There was no one else with you doing the same thing.
Nobody else with me. I was all by myself. Even my home, they didn't even know what I was doing or what I was going. They must have thought I was just going to another class in the college or something like that. So I went on a weekend and I was into this room of 20 people, almost everybody elderly people, many of them almost double my age. And that is the first time I met Father George. in such close quarters. And Father George and Saru were actually, co-facilitating that group.
It's interesting. You've been mentioning a few names like Father George, PK Saru, and also Julie Hay. These people have had some significant influence in your life. If you had to describe maybe each of them, maybe in a couple of sentences, who are they to you and who are they to the TA community at large? I think that will be very helpful.
Yeah. See, as I said, Father George, he is the guru for all of us, Indian TAs. Even though there were some of his compatriots at that time. For example, in Bangalore, there was Carlos and Saroj Welsh. They were all getting into transactional analysis at almost around the same time. But Father George really institutionalized it in some many ways. And there was Pearl Drago and Osamet and up there in Delhi and so on. But Father George really set up the exclusive school for transaction analysis in Cochin. So he was, for me, a very mystical teacher, I would say, because he wouldn't really teach. Even though he was a priest, he would never preach. He would never teach. I've never seen him teach a concept the way we all do it. He mostly spoke in parables. He mostly spoke in very cryptic statements and in very unassuming manner, but it always had a deep impact in me. I still remember I was doing one live counseling session in front of him during the first year of training while he was supervising, and I was stuck because something was going on. He immediately asked me, "What is going on with you?" I said, "I don't know." Then he just said, "You don't know?" That's all he asked. Somehow it struck a chord in me. I said, okay, now I exactly know what was going on. The client was stuck. I got stuck because I was not able to manage my own emotions, which the client was reflecting. He had that sort of an uncanny way of communicating just by his presence and very simple, cryptic way of communicating. He had that sort of a magical impact on us. And I was really, really lucky and privileged to have learned from him, interacted with him for a long time, almost till he passed away almost nearly for 2 decades.
So he came to teach in Coimbatore, Surya. So
Yes.
PK Saru was there, he was there,
Yes.
and he kept coming, or was it?
Yes, Saru was based in Coimbatore, but Father George was based in Cochin, and he set up his Institute for Counseling and TA in Cochin, and Saru was part of his first training group.
Right.
Because
Okay.
her nephew, Unnikamu, is the one who instigated Father George to start formal training to certify people in TA and so on. And during one of her very difficult lives, Saru was going through, she was introduced to Father George. And then she joined the training group. So once she got, or even before she was certified, Father George was running a group in Coimbatore. Because since Saru was based there and some other convent nuns were also part of Father George's training. So they started a group where people from Chennai, Mysore, and all used to come, Bangalore. They used to come to Coimbatore and he used to run the group. So once Saru got certified in sometime in 92, she then wanted to start her own group. All of us joined that already existing cohort. So group became almost double the size. So Father George and Saru started co-facilitating the group in Coimbatore. So that is how Coimbatore became a major hub because there were at least
And
3, 4 others who were part of Father George's training group were living in Coimbatore. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about Saru.
Saru was my teacher, mentor, my friend, colleague, in all sort of ways that one really support and help grow. She is the one instrumental in me growing and being what I am right now in many ways. Father George was there in initial days, but she modeled, she literally mentored me and some of us young fellows who joined the training at that time. What we were, it was 94. It's almost we were in our mid 20s actually when we started the training groups, and by that time she was 60 or so. So in fact, most of the really practicing transaction analysts in India would be falling under her sort of family tree, second generation, third generation. She was an immense very strong, powerful presence. And my friends and colleagues, Mohan and others, really learned so much outside the training group by being with her, literally live in her house. Whenever there is an event or a conference or a meet happening, all of us trainees used to be there. So that was a stellar thing because she was very, very generous in bringing in as many transactionalist experts from outside India as possible and exposing all of us to that. Because in those days, traveling abroad is unthinkable. Attends these conferences from India, spending out of her own pocket, made friends. Julie Hay was a friend already when I met her. And she would make sure that all these friends came to India and did training programs for all of us in those days, in the 93, 94, 95, until 2000, 2004.
It was very enterprising. She met people and called them and hosted them.
She had her own power, her charm, her influence, her impact in anybody who ever came across her. Whenever she enters a room, you cannot miss that sort of a presence. She would simply engulf the whole space. That sort of a presence she had. It's not only in teaching and providing, but also, you should attend some of her dinners and lunches. We all used to make fun. Oh God, you teach and you also feed us. It was an amazing experience. So she's a teacher, she's a mentor. And then, of course, she was a great friend. Once we got certified, she was a great colleague. We have worked with her side by side for so many years. And we set up her counseling center in Coimbatore, Asha Counseling and Training Services, in the late 90s. So she's the major influence in me being what I am today. And as I said, on contrast to the shy and timid small town guy who could really be confident, who could really choose to, meet people, talk in front of people, whatever I am doing today. I think that's a lot to do with how she modeled courage and okayness and so on.
Sounds like the evolution of the nice guy in part was not just TA, it was also the people. You're talking about Father George and outside just the formal part of it. So, what evolved and how did you experience that evolution? What became of the nice guy who was always there?
See, I am a chronic learner. Okay, so many a time not learning only by reading, but I also learn a lot by observing. I think that social learning is my main source of learning. And as I said, Saru was so generous to bring all these people from abroad, all these transaction analysts.
Right.
Julie Hay, Merrick Houston, Charlotte Allenbach, Ilana Lee, Adrian Lee, so many of them. And of course, we also hosted several international conferences. Every conference has so many other, and any conference, around the conference, there will always be some workshops and other things organized. So I will make sure that we got exposure. I think that played a major role in me really picking up something or the other from each one of them. We could go for supervision with all of them. We would, of course, train with them. And many times we might even travel with some of them when we go to places. So all this played a huge role in learning and becoming whatever I am. But of course, I would say the initial 1.5 years of training with Father George and Saru made the major difference. Like almost 1 year. At the time I was doing my MBA. I was in my second year of my MBA when I joined my training. In the first 6 months, I joined my training in January. By May, I made it a very, very drastic career shift. As I said, I was an engineer even before I was doing my MBA. So, in the 6 months of personal work that I did with Father George, the only work I did was with this nice guy. He would really work with it without making me feel ashamed or without making me feel guilty or any of the stuff. He would really, really confront and make sure that nice guy kept those nice parts of it, but definitely not those unhealthy, unhelpful parts of it. He really. So by May, I decided I'm not going to be an engineer anymore. I found my calling is more towards being with people, helping people in development. So I got into teaching and then training and consultancy and so on and so forth. It was totally, totally unexpected when you really look at it. My family didn't know what to do.
So, your relationships, your peers, your friends, they would have seen you becoming somebody else, kind of.
Yeah,
Huh?
that's true. That's the whole thing. Of course, it is not a revolutionary thing of moving from a nice guy to the bad guy sort of a thing, even though it's, I wish I were at some point to be that. But it was so evolutionary, people could see it in terms of people could listen to me, people could approach me for whatever they want.
Maybe can you give a, just for the audience and even for us, right? It's like watching a movie, right? Like you have a before and an after Mr. Nice Guy image that you've already spoke here in this podcast. And then you have this not so nice guy. I don't know what else we call it. So maybe do a contrasting scenario example of a situation that you held then and a situation that you held now. And how did it made a big difference for your friends or your family or your relationships? And how did that happen?
Give an example from my own relationship with Saru herself.
Mm.
She was my teacher, trainer, mentor, and all that. So she was always a larger than life person up there in a pedestal. And being the nice guy, having such a strong parent figure, it was so easy to get along, right? But I think the same learning that I learned from her later on when we started working together, built an institute and so on. I still remember we used to have such heated arguments and debates about things. Why we should do something this way or something another way. If I look back at it, I cannot imagine me doing that even with my own siblings, let alone my teacher or whoever was that stage. I think that was really the evidence for transformation. It was not,
I
it
would
didn't
say
happen overnight.
even earlier, I have known Sarun. I've also been a student.
Yeah.
She would say psychotherapy, no matter what, psychotherapy. That field of TA was what it was. So if you were, so I know that you moved away from psychotherapy and to something else. Even that was a sign of this, I suspect. I don't know if she pushed you to psychotherapy or not.
Of course, Sadhu was specialized in psychotherapy, and our initial train, Father George was, of course, he was a teaching member, which was field agnostic, so he can be all fields, which he was anyway. So our training was primarily in counseling and psychotherapy. Okay.
Right.
I had no idea of getting certified. I went there because I was curious and I wanted to learn about myself. So after 2 years of training, when I found if it could do this change in me, for example, my asserting myself and choosing a career which is totally different from what my whole family and surrounding expected me to be, that itself was the proof of the pudding.
Sure.
So I told myself, if this 6 months of learning could get me to this state, how helpful it could be to us. Do I have to just hold it on with? That was the spark. So after 2 years, we decided, okay, let us do certification. So even Saru was a psychotherapist, her training was mostly psychotherapy. She did not compel or force us to be that. Probably she would have wished that we became psychotherapists. I and my friend Mohan, both of us, right from day one, we decided we are going to do organizations,
So
especially.
you were clear about that. Was it
I
because
was
of your
very clear
MBA?
about that. Mainly, of course, even though we were tempted to become psychotherapists because it was so enamoring when you really see the type of work that you could do with individuals and the transformation that you could see just in front of your eyes and also in our own selves. But still, I was very clear about that. I don't know why, because by that time I was already into organizational training and I was also teaching in a business school. So therefore, for me, it was almost sort of a naturally drawn towards organizations work. Yeah, and at that time, three of us chose to do organization work, and maybe a little begrudgingly, Saru said, "Okay, go ahead, but somehow do it." She wanted us to get certified because we were saying we are not ready. Many times she would say, "No, no, you are ready. You are not trusting my judgment." We said, "It's okay. We will decide to do it when we trust ourselves." So that was an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, it was a very interesting transition, right? From
Yeah, and it's great that you're saying this, Surya. And even the last piece that you spoke about, you asserting yourself to this person who is almighty, high and above, saying that, you know what, I think, it's unusual for people to say that even if the supervisor and it's this person whom you hold in such big light is saying that you're ready, but you're like, no, no, I'm not ready. I want to do certain things, etc. From a very shy boy to somebody who's asserting themselves. Can you shed some more light on how do you approach leadership roles? How has TA helped you transform your approach towards leadership role? This is mostly for audience who's listening. where they struggle saying the TA is all psychotherapy, we'll have regression work, I will heal in the past, right? And then you're talking about very different from what is written in the book also. I am okay, you're okay. So if you can shed some light there and maybe give some personal examples of how that approach has shifted you in your own approach to leadership.
As you rightly said, TA is often identified with working with individuals and prying into individuals' mind and making individual changes and transformation and so on. And it's very natural because it developed as a theory of psychotherapy. Okay, Eric von, but often people are not aware of the other side of TA, which is also about groups and organizations. Eric von himself wrote 2 books on groups and organizations. Principles of group treatment, strictly from a group psychotherapy point of view, but more interestingly, structure and dynamics of organizations and groups. That was another book he wrote about how to use transactional analysis principles. It's almost a whole new framework to study groups and work with groups, where part of leadership is also an important, inevitable component of any group and organization for that matter. I think I add that is again the beauty of Father George. He did not teach it in so many ways, but it was always open. Being part of seeing TA applied in organizations was an integral part of my initial years of training also, because I was very much associated with ICTA, the center as well. So I could always see how it was functioning. And I was working with my own organization clients doing training and process feedback consultancy and organization development intervention. Even I myself, initial days thought organization is just a group of people. So take all that works, a theory that works with individuals, and we are only using it to scale in a scaled manner with a lot of individuals in different settings. But it took me some time to realize how that is not the case. An organization or a group develops entity of its own, a personality of its own. It's not just an aggregate or sum of individuals. So all the theory and concepts that works to an individual cannot be simply multiplied and then transferred and applied into a groups. Eric Burns' group diagram became the language and the tool for me to approach and work with groups. For example, it happened over time. That is one of the main reasons I also told Saru, we are not ready. Because I realized something was missing. So it took almost, I think I would say by the end of the 4th year of my training, I really get the clarity and the distinction of how the way using TA itself with the groups and organizations evolved and clarified for me. It took almost 4 years. Till then, it was just, for example, you study ego state of an individual and you draw the same ego state parent and a child of an organization. Well, it helps to some extent, but it doesn't help. For example, if you want to bring some shift in the culture of an organization, I cannot just look at it from a parent, adult, and child.
Yeah, and it's also hard. So if you think about it, ego state of an individual and ego state of an organization, when you have multiple departments and multiple, it's so complex to put, like, while you can easily put getting one sort of image of a particular department may draw an ego state, but then there are multiple competing groups, departments. It's very complex. So I don't think an ego state can actually help.
Yeah, it helps to get a very broad sense of it, but beyond a point, you cannot simply scale it up and you cannot simply extrapolate it. So you need new frameworks and structures. That is where Eric Burns' group diagrams become helpful. Rosa Cross's organizational script becomes helpful. So there are several other organizational transaction analysis theories that become helpful. Okay.
Super. Surya, this is a good segue into the next part of our section where we're talking a lot about frameworks and theories and some things that are a lot more personal to you. It's a little more TA frameworks perspective. Are you ready to go to the next part of the section?
Sure.